From brutalizing other fighters like they're amateurs to dominating the flyweight division as the champion, here's why fighters are really scared of Valentina Shevchenko.
Here we see the takedown. I mean, just one of many. Literally every time.
Starting with the fact that she's just too talented. It's as simple as that. You can compare her with any of the other women's UFC greats. I don't think anyone comes close. Let's take Ronda Rousey, for example. Many consider her the undisputed GOAT of women's UFC, but Rousey was, for the most part of her career, just a dominant grappler. While on the other hand, Bullet's a complete fighter. She has some incredible Muay Thai skills. She can knock her opponent out, she can stay on her feet and start a striking competition within seconds. And if that doesn't work, she can just force them to submit. It's all just too easy for her. And that's not where it stops. I mean, she can give a post-fight interview in 3 different languages after leaving her opponents for dead. That's how insane her energy is. And the way she dances to celebrate her victories will leave you laughing for days. It's her special way of telling her opponents, this is what you get when you mess with the queen. I mean, you just have to love her.
Like this. Now Carmouche is very, very strong, but look at this. Look at that! Combination of power and technique.
Valentina's one of the most skillful female fighters this world has ever seen. Like, she's scary good, and apart from being a skillful fighter, she's also pretty great at brutalizing her opponents. If you ask me, this is what makes her one of the scariest female fighters ever. Like I said earlier, she's a former Muay Thai champion and possesses some sensational striking and grappling skills. This is what helps her in achieving her goals, and makes all the other fighters think twice before they go up against her. She's the woman who blessed us with one of the scariest knockouts in UFC history against Jessica Eye.
Oh, head kick. It's it.
I mean, that head kick should have been illegal. She's also one of the last fighters in the sport to finish the former bantamweight champ Juliana Pena. Bullet has the ability to finish fights, both on the mat and while standing up, and not many fighters can say the same for themselves. So it's no surprise that it's always tough for the UFC to find an opponent for her. I mean, how can you find an opponent for someone no one wants to challenge? They don't call her Bullet for nothing. And hey, it's not just me saying all of this. Former UFC strawweight champion Carla Esparza agrees with me. She said if Shevchenko switches to strawweight, she'd be scary. Of course she'd be scary. Scratch that, she'd be downright terrifying. After her convincing victory against Taila Santos at UFC 275, Bullet said she weighed 130 pounds in that fight. She even hinted at moving down the order and fighting in the strawweight division in her post-fight interviews. Now, I'm not sure how serious she was when she said this, but it sure did scare Esparza, and I'm sure a lot of other fighters would have been scared too. Carla said Shevchenko's a beast, and that she would put a lot of fear in the hearts of other strawweight fighters.
Well, that would be scary. She is like, you know, she is a beast.
She said Jessica Andrade and Joanna Jędrzejczyk were 2 of the most dominant fighters in the divisions. But when they went up to face Valentina, they were destroyed. That's just who Shevchenko is. Esparza is a smart woman, and everything she said about Shevchenko is 100% true. And not only this, she also admitted that Shevchenko's the greatest women fighter of all time. All this coming from someone like Carla just proves my point.
Definitely for me, like Valentina, I consider her as the GOAT.
And if that's not enough, after beating Taila Santos at UFC 275, Valentina broke the record for most title defenses in the UFC by a woman. It was her 8th title defense plus her 9th victory in a row. Although she lost her title to Alexa Grasso at UFC 285, it was still a memorable and record-breaking run for her. But that was only the start of her reign. At this point, Bullet has almost cleared the whole flyweight division. The flyweight division is already very shallow. I mean, most 125-pound fighters will never make the mistake of entering the octagon with Bullet, but she still has faced a good chunk of competition in the division. The fact that she was just way better than them is a whole different conversation. Bullet has defeated 3 of the top 5 fighters in the division, to be specific. I'm talking about Jessica Andrade, Katlyn Chookagian, and Taila Santos. Wins against Andrade and Katlyn weren't just wins, it was proper domination. I mean, you just had had to see what she did to Andrade, it left me shocked for days. Andrade's one of the top-ranked fighters in the division, but Shevchenko was having none of it. She dominated her for the whole fight and ended her after landing some brutal elbows to her face. It was some scary stuff, and this isn't it. Her list of scary knockouts goes on and on. Remember that brutal head kick to finish off Jessica Ai? That really just came out of nowhere, and it connected so perfectly that Jessica was done and dusted right there. Plus, she finished off Lauren Murphy in the same kind of fashion as she did against Andrade. After watching all this, why would anyone want to step inside the octagon with her? This is why most 125-pound fighters maintain their distance from her. They clearly don't want to end up like Andrade, Murphy, or Ai. After all, Shevchenko herself said that her goal isn't just to win a fight, it is to dominate it. There's always only one thing going on in her mind: dominating her opponent. She doesn't care who she's facing, she doesn't care who the crowd is supporting. Shevchenko only steps inside the octagon for one reason and only, and that's to win. Which is why she has managed to be as successful as she is. Bullet became the flyweight champion in 2018, and 8 opponents later, she was still the champion. Pretty impressive, right? She was unlucky against Grasso, otherwise it would have been one heck of a title defense record. If you look at the stats, Valentina has a professional record of 23 wins and 4 losses. Not many female fighters have a better record than her. The only way to achieve this kind of record is to stay consistent, and unsurprisingly, Bullet's one of the most consistent fighters out there. She's always ready for a bout. You just need to tell me when. Her words, not mine. With a mentality like this, she doesn't even need to step into the ring to scare off her opponents. I have to say, Valentina is arguably the most hardworking female fighter on the planet. Most UFC fighters are only consistent until they become a champion, but Shevchenko's head was in the game right from the start. To this day, she never backs down from a fight. In fact, a month ago, before Grasso was announced as her opponent, Shevchenko was left frustrated because of the lack of opponents for her. No one was ready to line up to face her. I mean, usually when someone's champion, everybody wants to take a shot at them. No one backs down from the chance of winning a title, but it wasn't the case here because Bullet was just too intimidating. In fact, Joe Rogan once said that Shevchenko's the Scarlett Johansson of the UFC. And by Scarlett, he meant her famous character named Black Widow. Black Widow's a fearless woman in a black suit with a lot of weapons and fighting skills that are out of this world. And that sounds quite a lot like Valentina, doesn't it? Now, I can go on and on about Shevchenko dominating her opponents or scaring them away, but those are all the reasons why fighters are really scared to face her.